It feels like the one club everybody's really talking about this summer is Real Madrid. You think of any major transfer story and there's a high chance they've been at the forefront of it. Even for the past a number of years, actually, when you think about Kylian Mbappe, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Xabi Alonso coming and going, the appointment of Jose Mourinho, the situation with Rodri, Vinicius Jr., whether he's off to Arsenal or signing a new deal, they're at the forefront of the lot of it, let alone Yan Diomande, who's just signed in the past couple of days for around 130 million euros. I made a video not too long ago about Yan Diomande and why I thought it was a bit of a waste of money to spend, considering the other problems Real Madrid have in their squad, and this was way before the Fabrizio Romano-Plettenberg beef between whether it's done, whether it's not done, all of this kind of stuff. Nonetheless, I think Real Madrid have been at the forefront of all of this because they needed the most done. They were an embarrassment last year and they were very, very poorly run, both on and off the pitch. Real Madrid needed change. They needed a change of culture and they needed a change of playing staff. That's why Jose Mourinho has been brought in, because there is no better culture creator in Florentino Perez's mind than Jose Mourinho. He's seen him do it before with the likes of Di Maria, Benzema, Kaká, Ronaldo, Ozil. He's done it once before and Perez thinks he can do it again. The problem is, are the players up to it? The signings of Ibrahim Konate, Bernardo Silva, Marc Cucurella and Denzel Dumfries add a bit of steel and ball-carrying ability to the team, specifically the latter on Bernardo Silva, but they still need one or two pieces. They've re-signed Vinicius Jr. to a long-term contract, which many people would gladly laugh at Arsenal at, and it must be fun to do it. I do it quite often, let's be honest. But in this particular occasion, when people are saying, oh, they used them, they were never going to happen, he's had them for toast, maybe. But I think there was genuine interest on both sides. There was certainly interest from Arsenal sides, and I think if, let's be brutally honest, why would you not want to join a club? Forget who it is. Forget the badge, forget the name of the club. Premier League winner, Champions League runner-up, a team that looks like they're going to challenge for quite a number of years. Why would Vinicius Jr. not be interested in it? Yes, I know there was a case of Real Madrid only let you go when they don't want you to go, but the power for a lot of it was in his hands. If he didn't want to sign that deal, he wasn't going to sign that deal. He was going to go. He would be off. Arsenal were prepared to pay for him. He ended up staying at Real Madrid because they paid the money. But because Real Madrid spent so much time looking after the Vinicius Jr. contract, sorting out Yan Diamande's mega deal, which I still think is a waste of money, nothing has changed my opinion on that, they've missed out on Rodri, who was probably the most important of the three involved. Rodri, it looks like, is off to Barcelona, based purely on the fact that he feels a little bit disrespected that Real Madrid didn't prioritise his transfer. It's probably the easiest one of the lot, certainly the cheapest. They didn't need to spend £130 million on Yan Diomande. Real Madrid bid about 45 million, I think it was, for Rodri for Manchester City. That was turned down. Going for another bid, 60 or 75 million pounds. That probably gets the deal done. A defensive midfielder with a year left on his contract who has expressed desire to leave, specifically leaving to Real Madrid, that was a tap-in. It's the most tap-in of tap-ins. It's David Nugent one cat, one goal tap-in for England. And they didn't do it. They missed out on it because they were too busy sorting out other deals. And not only have they lost a march on him, they've lost out on to their biggest rivals, Barcelona. I know people will say that Rodri fits the Barcelona style more, and maybe that is true. But there is something about Rodri in a Real Madrid kit that just looked right. It just felt right. He's the kind of player that feels like the crowning player of that team. Would Rodri signing for Real Madrid mean that they are automatically going to win the Champions League or become Champions League favourites? No, not in the slightest. There's many other issues in that team that I'll touch on in a moment, but Rodri would have added a lot more experience, winning mentality and control that they have lacked since Toni Kroos and Luka Modric left. Bernardo Silva's fantastic, but he's not Rodri. He's a different kind of ball carrier. He's a different kind of tempo setter. He's more of a Vitinha than he is a Rodri. And that's not because of the diminutive Portuguese similarities, it's just the way that the two move is probably more similar to the way that Rodri and Bernardo Silva move. They complemented each other well at Manchester City, but they weren't similar. But why are Real Madrid so focused on everything but what they need to be? Well, there's an addiction to being the biggest club in the world that makes the biggest deals. There's an addiction for the club to be the forefront of everybody's minds. As I said at the beginning of this video, they have been at the forefront of the transfer window for many, many years. The whole Kylian Mbappe saga was exhausting for everybody involved, to the point that when he left Paris, there wasn't really an outcry. Certainly not in the sense of, oh, please stay, we really want you to stay. They were actually quite glad that it was over. They were quite glad they didn't have to go through another season of, oh, Mbappe's sulking, he wants to go to Real Madrid. You had the situation with Trent where they ended up actually paying £10 million to Liverpool for a free transfer just so he could play in the Club World Cup. Now that's bad business when you really think about it. The whole point of waiting for Trent to sign on a free transfer is that you didn't have to pay any money. But you wanted to play him in the Club World Cup so badly that you ended up paying for a player that you didn't want to pay for. Then you go on to Xabi Alonso, brought in from Bayer Leverkusen, who was a fantastic coach in the Bundesliga, took Bayer Leverkusen to a league title and was one game away from an unprecedented treble for the club. Missed out on the Europa League to Atalanta, but a historic season nonetheless. He was brought in to be a culture setter. He was brought in to give Real Madrid an identity of how to play. He's an ex-player. He gets the club, but obviously he didn't get the club well enough. Why? He was sacked not too long into his tenure. He didn't see out his first season. He fell out with players who saw it as a clash of cultures, specifically Vinicius Jr., who once stormed down the touchline after being subbed off, and that kind of set the wheels in motion for Xabi Alonso's time at the club to be gone. Then, after Alonso, came Alvaro Arbeloa. Similarly, formerly a Liverpool player, similarly, formerly a Real Madrid player, now a coach. That was a disaster. There was rumours he didn't even speak to some of the players. The players just didn't fancy him. The players didn't rate him, nor respect him as a manager. Maybe as a person they did, but certainly not as a manager. Towards the end of that season, to add more insult to injury, you've got Fede Valverde and Aurelien Tchouameni fighting each other. There was one denial and then another denial, and then everything kind of contradicted itself, where people knew the story but they didn't know the story. And it was just an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment all round for Real Madrid, and they needed to change. So after all of that, after all the embarrassment on the pitch in terms of losing in the Copa del Rey to a second division team, losing in the Champions League to Bayern Munich, and being trounced by Barcelona to the La Liga title, things needed to change. Antonio Rudiger and Andreas Carreras had a fight, that needs to be stomped out. Fede Valverde and Tchouameni going at each other, that needs to be stomped out. Because mainly they need you to play together. Boys, come on, grow up. And there was no one better, in the eyes of Florentino Perez, to restore order to Los Blancos than Jose Mourinho. Maybe his time has come and gone, maybe he isn't the guy he once was, but he's still Jose Mourinho and he still carries an aura around him. If you remember from the Tottenham Hotspur All or Nothing documentary, you want to run through a brick wall for this guy when he's on top form. He's done it with egos before, and it's kind of his speciality. He went to Chelsea and turned them into a beast. He went to Real Madrid and turned them around. Actually, I think the job he did at Real Madrid in the first instance was quite underrated, overshadowed by the amazing job Pep Guardiola did at Barcelona and that incredible team. But they had challenges. That Barcelona team had some of the best players on the planet, ever. As did that Real Madrid team. They were going head-to-head week in, week out, to the point where Pep Guardiola quit because he was so exhausted of everything that came with it. Jose eventually won La Liga with that Real Madrid team, couldn't get over the line in the Champions League, but had set up the foundations for a team to do so, in the mentality aspect of it. And that might be what they're hoping for him to do this time. Are they going to win the Champions League? No. I think Paris Saint-Germain would beat them. I think Bayern Munich would probably beat them again. I think Arsenal would beat them again. So at the best possible way, they're fourth favourites. Actually, I think Barcelona would beat them. So they're fifth favourites for this tournament. The one tournament they always want to win. And judging by that, they'd be second favourites for La Liga as well, ahead of just behind Barcelona. So what really is going to change? Well, there's more conundrums than ever before. They've signed these players, but really, are they the signings you make to go all the way? Thibaut Courtois in goal is still brilliant. Cucurella's an upgrade at left-back, and the centre-back partnership of Rudiger and Konate could be fun, but it could equally be disastrous when it comes to the crunch. Right-back is another issue that's faced Mourinho, because Trent Alexander-Arnold's there, and he's one of, when he's on top form, in the right system, one of the best right-backs on the planet. But, let's be honest, we all know who's going to play the big games out of him and Dumfries. it's going to be Denzel Dumfries. He's not my personal favourite player, but he's been more than capable and more than reliable for Inter Milan during his spell there, and he's always a mainstay in the Netherlands national team. So whilst I may not rate him, fully qualified UEFA and FIFA coaches do. And it's up to you who you believe on that. I know who I believe, and it isn't me. In midfield, Bernardo Silva, Fede Valverde, Tchouaméni, Camavinga. They're probably your first four options. You'd imagine it's a 4-2-3-1. So who are the two in the midfield? Aurelien Tchouaméni is one of the most Jose Mourinho midfielders in football right now. Fede Valverde is a fantastic player, one of the most dynamic box-to-box midfielders going. Might not be captain material by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a fantastic player nonetheless. But those two fought last season. One of them cracked the other one's head. How's that going to work on a pitch? I don't know. Hopefully they've sorted their issues out off-season, and they don't have anything like that now. But maybe Bernardo Silva plays next to Tchouaméni, and that's the way they go with it. And then you go forward. And this is where I don't like the balance of this team. On the left, remember, 4-2-3-1. Bellingham at the 10. Vinny Jr. on the wing. Diomande on the other. And Mbappe up top. I don't like the balance whatsoever. I don't think that fits what Real Madrid want. It doesn't fit modern football. Are those going to work in tandem? Vinicius Jr. is going to be on the left. He's a left winger. Diomande is going to be on the right. Ironically, the one I don't have an issue with in terms of sticking to their position is Diomande. He's going to be a touchline hugging right winger. Vinicius Jr. is a left winger who can drift inside. Kylian Mbappe is not a striker. He's a left winger that drifts inside as well. So naturally he gravitates to the left. And we've seen a few times from Real Madrid where they've gotten in each other's way, where one has got into the position on the left and the one that's meant to be in the middle isn't there. Jude Bellingham, I think, is a conundrum that people aren't really discussing. I was listening to Trans-Euro Express last night, or the most recent Sunday, with Andy Brassel and Kevin Hatchard, and they spoke about Bellingham, and I actually agreed with them in the sense of that Real Madrid are about to come into a bit of a conundrum with him, in the sense that they don't know what his best position is. He's going to play, he's too good not to play, but you can't play him as a deeper midfielder, it reduces what he's really good at. You can't really play him as a 10, because whilst he's creative and he affects games, he's not a dictator of games. He's not a number 10 the way that Mesut Ozil was, as an example. And I know that's quite a high bar, but you know what I mean. Is he a striker? Not really. He's more in between. He's a second striker. He's a false... I wouldn't even say he's a false nine. He's a Thomas Muller. He's a Dele Alli. He's a player that doesn't have a position. He has an area of the pitch he covers, but he isn't fixed to one position. Get the ball into the box, he's going to score because he makes late runs and he always gets onto the end of productive passes of play. But he's not strictly a striker. And they're missing the player to their biggest rivals that would have helped them massively. Because if you got Rodri, you could then switch to a 4-3-3. You could then switch to a 4-3-3 where you could have had Rodri, Tchouaméni, Bellingham, Vinny, Mbappe, Diomande. Yes, I know that kind of half contradicts what I've just said, where Mbappe would go to the left, but you can allow that because Bellingham would go forward, Tchouaméni can cover the ground, and Rodri's there. Valverde's box to box. Tchouaméni can still cover the ground. There isn't that sitter. There isn't that holder that you can trust to win the ball back and recycle possession. It won't be Trent. Trent isn't that guy. And I've seen people float the idea, will Trent play in midfield? I don't even know if Trent will play at all, let alone midfield, let alone his own position at right back. There's a lot of problems at Real Madrid on the pitch. There's many issues on how they are run off the pitch as well, which I think might be a video for another time. And I've spoken so much about Real Madrid this summer that I feel like I know more about them than I do anybody else from what I've seen. They spent a lot of money. They've made splashes in the market in terms of the names they brought in. I don't think they're considerably better. I don't think this puts them closer to a Champions League. It certainly doesn't put them closer to a La Liga title, Mourinho or no Mourinho. But let me know what you think about this Real Madrid team. If you got this far in the video, thank you for watching. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Again, comment what you think is going to happen with Real Madrid this year. I don't know. I can't figure it out myself. I can't figure out whether this team has the potential to really explode in a positive way or explode in a negative way yet again, where there's clashes. That's not to mention any of the off-field stuff that happened between Vinny and Jose Mourinho with the racism issue against Benfica last year. That's a whole different kettle of fish that I haven't touched on that could be simmering over the course of the season. Thank you for watching the video. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. We'll see you next time.